Howdy, this is Knockoff Christian Bale, and welcome to Juno New Origins. Today's video, we will talk about the basics of building a rocket and flying it in-game. This is not meant to replace the in-game tutorial, just supplement it and provide more context. I'll also go into detail on my design process for all the vehicles that I designed for my career mode. And I'll also show you how to use the tools in the game to create more super detailed rockets. Let's begin. Let's get into the building screen and select a rocket as our desired build. Once we do that, we are greeted by this basic vehicle, at least in Sandbox. In Career, you'll just start with a command disk, but the same building techniques will apply. The initial Sandbox rocket will show you everything that you will eventually need to build a successful rocket: a command part, fuel, and an engine. For now, we're just going to throw everything away. Let's go over the menus first. On the left side of the screen is the build tools. Everything you need to build your rocket is in these menu options. There is the menu which allows you to save, start a new build, go back to the menu, or even download builds from online. Active Tools has a set of design tools for advanced building techniques. Add Parts will open up the available parts menu so you can, add parts. Part Properties will allow you to edit certain features on some parts to make them fit your needs. Symmetry will allow you to set a part or part groups to be copied around the center of their parent part. Pre-flight configuration allows you to check that your staging is correct, name and configure your action groups, and do pre-flight checks to ensure your vehicle is up to the task or can even launch. Search Craft Parts produces a list of all the parts that you have put into the build screen. Finally, View Options allows you to quickly swap to different view positions, see different visualized stats such as your center of mass, center of lift, center of thrust, and a few other options. To the right side of your screen is the Launch Craft button, Design Info button, Crew Selection, and the Visi button. For right now, we just click on the Design Info button to open up that menu. Now, in the base games tutorial, you built a pretty simple crewed spacecraft that could reach orbit and return. I want to do a little bit more than that, and so we're going to pick a rocket off of my rocket poster and make something inspired by that vehicle that can carry at least 1 ton. I'm going to go for 10 tons into low Drew orbit. I've decided that I'm going to make a rocket that's inspired by the Delta IV, but you can pick your own rocket based off of whatever you want. Now, you probably noticed that you weren't able to throw away the capsule, which is okay. So to get started, we need to find a way to get rid of this capsule because I don't want to build a crewed vehicle. So in order to do that, we're just going to bring a command disk into the build menu. Don't attach it to anything. Just select it and go to the part properties to set it as the primary. Now you can delete that capsule. The command disk is kind of a rounded square shape, so to make it round, we'll click on the Active tool and select the Part Shape tool. Grab the corner radius slider and drag it to 100%. Make sure that you do this on both the bottom and the top, and you can swap between the bottom and top by just clicking on the blue and white arrows in the Part Shape menu. This tool is a great tool that you can use to really decide on what shape you want to make your rocket or the different parts that you do. But for right now, I just want to use it to make sure that this is round. Now we just need to use the orange arrow on the command disk to select the diameter of our upper stage. Now at this point, I'm going to assume or suggest heavily that you have played the main tutorial. If not, go do that please. But I'll make a note down of what I'm doing as I build. First, I want to get the general shape and build of the engines that my vehicle will use. For each stage, I want to make sure that the thrust-to-weight ratio is greater than 1. You can see the thrust-to-weight ratio over in the design info. If it's too low, I'll increase either the size of the engine in the part properties menu or increase the size of the throat diameter. If it's too high, such as greater than 2, then I'll pull back on either the chamber pressure or the nozzle throat size. I also want to be certain that my burn times aren't super low. It doesn't do me any good to have a high thrust-to-weight ratio that only lasts for a few seconds. So for that, I like to keep it to a little more than 2 minutes per stage, especially if my shape is the way I want it. Increasing or decreasing chamber pressure is a great way to change that burn time, or you can always just add more fuel. I also like to increase the length of my upper stage nozzle while decreasing the length of my lower stage nozzles. This is to better optimize the engine for the specific portion of flight that I need them to be used in. I won't go into too much detail, but a longer nozzle for vacuum, shorter for in atmosphere. Try to find a balance between more delta V and less cost and weight. Just a warning though, make sure your nozzle isn't too big, as it will take damage if it is inside the atmosphere if you have too big of a nozzle. Once you have the idea and shape of your vehicle down and have your engines tuned the way you like it, now it's time to quite literally break your rocket down and rebuild it. The reason we are doing this is because as we look at the Delta IV rocket, we see that it has a lot of different colors and textures on it. In order to add those textures, I need to make the fuel tanks out of multiple different parts in order to add the textures and colors accordingly. Part textures can be found in the part properties menu, where there are multiple different textures you can choose from, and you can even increase the amount of tilings in the X and Y axis. Using this, you can tune the textures on your fuselage to give you the design and look that you really want for your rocket. For coloring, we go to the Active Tool menu and select the Paint tool. In this tool, we can click on the squares to select our different color palettes, and if you want to add different color stripes on your fuel tanks, go back to the part properties and select Stripe Style. Then go through the different paint targets to find a pattern that suits you. We can also decorate the rocket using smaller fuel tanks, struts, inlets, fairings. We can use this to make important details such as external pipes, raceways, and even boat tails for our engines. Some things to think about. 1. Look at the Delta V map. Look at a Delta V map to make sure your vehicle has the Delta V, or the amount of fuel you need in order to complete its mission. You can see that by going into the stage editor and turning on Delta V view, and you can see just how much Delta V your vehicle actually carries. General rule of thumb, if you're just going for low Drew orbit, you just need around 4 kilometers a second, or 4,000 meters per second. Also, double check on your staging to make sure you are activating the right stages at the right time. Now let's talk about how we fly into space. Take your new rocket to the launch pad. Once again, I'm going to assume that you've already played the tutorial, but I'm going to kind of go into a little bit more detail. At the bottom of your screen is the speed in both surface and orbital. I like to keep it'll automatically switch as you need it. Throttle, fuel levels, along with the monopropellant and battery levels. Finally, we have altitude, both above sea level and ground level. You can also open the nav ball, and which can help you easier fly the vehicle like an airplane if you feel like you need to. On the right is the time warp controls, navigation controls, action groups, flight info, flight log, and translation controls. Finished off with the stage controls on the bottom right. On the left-hand side, we have the pause menu, map view, and camera controls, and input sliders in the bottom left. When I fly my rockets manually, I use the nav sphere for control. First, locking the heading while the rocket is on the pad, so that way it's pointed up. Then hit Z to go to full throttle, and space to launch the rocket. Keep the rocket pointed up until your altitude reads 1 kilometer above sea level. When you reach that point, turn the vehicle to 75 degrees towards the east. In general, for altitude landmarks, I always try to do the following angles. I'll have it at 75 degrees at 1 kilometer, 60 degrees at 5 kilometers, 45 degrees at 10 kilometers. At this point, I swap to monitoring the apoapsis and my angles and use apoapsis landmarks. So when my apoapsis reaches 30 kilometers, I turn it to 30 degrees. 15 degrees at 15 kilometer apoapsis, and directly on the horizon or 0 degrees at 80 kilometer apoapsis. I'll then hold that attitude until I reach my target apoapsis, and then hit X to turn the engine off. I'll then go back over to the navigation controls and lock my heading on prograde. To finish off getting into orbit, all you need to do is time warp forward. I always wait till I'm less than 15 seconds from my apoapsis, and then I'll turn my engine back on. I'll burn until my periapsis is above around 80 kilometers, or at whatever target I need it to be at. Congrats, you have just reached orbit. This is the first part in a multi-part series. It's just going to be a basic tutorial for Juno New Origins. In the next video, I'm going to be covering how to rendezvous and dock and complete the rendezvous with a satellite mission. For that, it is very important that you understand this the process for launching into orbit. So make sure you practice that beforehand. Then the next video after that will be covering Visi and how I use it to program my rockets to automatically launch into the orbits that I need them to. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you have any suggestions or questions, go ahead and comment. I try and answer as many as I can. And if you want to see more and you want to continue with this series, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a good day.